Every morning, millions of seniors across America start their day the same way. A small glass of water on the kitchen counter, a line of pill bottles neatly arranged. And with a deep breath, a 70-year-old man tilts back his head, believing he's fueling his body with health. It feels like a ritual of protection. Vitamins for strength, minerals for energy, supplements for longevity. After all, the labels promise heart support, brain health, immune defense. And the commercials make it sound like you can add years to your life with just a handful of pills. But here's the shocking truth. Some of those very same nutrients, when taken in the wrong way, or in amounts far beyond what the body needs, can quietly raise the risk of stroke. Not immediately, not obviously, but slowly, silently, over months and years. Medical studies from the American Heart Association, Harvard Health, and the Mayo Clinic now warn, what seems harmless in the bottle can turn into hidden danger in the bloodstream. Take Margaret, a 73-year-old grandmother from Florida. Every morning she takes her vitamins faithfully. Vitamin E for her heart, calcium for her bones, and a scoop of protein powder she believes will keep her strong. To her, these supplements are insurance for a healthier future. But what she doesn't realize is that one capsule carries more than 4 times the safe daily dose. Her calcium tablets may be hardening her arteries instead of strengthening her bones, and that healthy powder hides as much sodium as several bowls of canned soup. Margaret thinks she's protecting herself. In reality, she's slowly stacking the odds against her brain and heart. The problem isn't just the dose, it's the combination. Most seniors don't take supplements in isolation. They mix them with blood pressure meds, cholesterol pills, diabetes drugs, and that cocktail, unplanned, unmonitored, creates interactions that even the most careful senior may not notice, until it's too late. That's why today's video is so important. Because in the next few minutes, we're going to uncover 9 common nutrients. Yes, the same ones found in everyday supplements that, if misused, can quietly increase your risk of stroke after 60. This isn't meant to scare you into throwing out your vitamins. It's meant to help you use them wisely, safely, and with the knowledge your health truly deserves. And one quick note before we begin. This video is for educational purposes only. It is not a substitute for medical advice. Always talk with your doctor before making changes to your supplements or medications. So, let's dive in. Let's begin with one of the most common supplements seniors trust the most: calcium. Margaret, like so many women in her 70s, takes it faithfully every morning. Her daughter once reminded her, "Mom, you need strong bones. Don't forget your calcium." So she keeps a large white bottle on the kitchen counter, believing each pill is a shield against fractures. And on the surface, it makes perfect sense. Calcium is essential for bone strength and preventing osteoporosis. Doctors have repeated this advice for decades, and countless commercials reinforce the message that calcium pills are a safe, simple way to stay independent. But here's where the story takes a troubling turn. When calcium comes from food, like a glass of milk, a cup of yogurt, or a plate of leafy greens, your body absorbs it gradually, using what it needs for bones and muscles. The process is balanced and safe. But when calcium comes in the form of large concentrated tablets taken every day, your body is suddenly flooded with more than it can process. And the excess doesn't always end up in the bones. Instead, it may begin to deposit in artery walls. Think of your blood vessels as soft, flexible garden hoses. They're designed to carry blood smoothly to the brain and heart. But when extra calcium builds up, it's like pouring cement into those hoses. They harden, they narrow, and blood has less room to flow. Reduced blood flow means a greater chance of a clot forming, and ultimately a higher risk of stroke. The science backs this up. A 2016 Johns Hopkins study of more than 2,700 adults over 10 years found that people who took calcium supplements were 22% more likely to develop hardened plaque in their arteries than those who got their calcium from food. Another large analysis published in the British Medical Journal showed that calcium supplements were linked to a 20 to 30% increase in heart attack and stroke risk among older adults. And the American Heart Association has cautioned that while calcium from diet is safe, calcium from pills may do more harm than good for the heart and brain. Here's the painful irony. The very pills Margaret swallows to protect her independence, hoping to avoid a fall or hip fracture, may quietly increase the chance of a life-changing stroke. It's like trying to build a stronger house, but accidentally blocking the roads that deliver electricity and water to it. So what's the safer path forward? For most seniors, it's better to rely on calcium-rich foods first. Dairy, fortified plant milks, tofu, sardines, almonds, or broccoli. These sources deliver calcium in a form the body can regulate naturally. Supplements should only be considered if a doctor confirms, through diet review or blood tests, that you're truly not getting enough. Because the goal is not only strong bones to help you stay upright, but also healthy arteries to keep blood flowing freely to your brain and heart, protecting both your independence and your life. If calcium tablets can harden the arteries, vitamin E poses a very different danger, one that thins the blood too much. Robert, a 71-year-old retired engineer, began taking vitamin E after seeing it advertised as support for heart and circulation. Each morning he would swallow a golden capsule, confident it was helping him stay sharp and protected. He had also been prescribed daily aspirin by his doctor after a mild heart scare, but he never thought the two could clash. At first it all seemed harmless. Vitamin E is often praised as a powerful antioxidant, and in small amounts from foods like nuts, seeds, and spinach, it truly is beneficial. But in supplement form, the doses are far higher than what nature intended. Many capsules contain 400 IU or more, roughly 4 times the recommended safe daily intake. And this is where the trouble begins. Vitamin E in such high amounts doesn't just fight free radicals, it acts as a potent blood thinner. When combined with aspirin or prescription blood thinners, it can tip the delicate balance too far, making it harder for blood to clot when it needs to. The result? A much higher risk of a hemorrhagic stroke, a bleed inside the brain that is often more deadly and harder to recover from than a clot-related stroke. The science is sobering. In the HOPE-2 trial, 2005, researchers found that people taking 400 IU of vitamin E daily had a 13% higher risk of heart failure and hemorrhagic stroke. Another meta-analysis published in Stroke, 2011, concluded that high-dose vitamin E was linked to a 22% greater risk of brain bleeds, even though it slightly reduced ischemic strokes. In other words, the trade-off isn't worth it. Think of your circulatory system as a seesaw. On one side is clotting, on the other is thinning. Vitamin E from food helps keep that seesaw balanced. But when you swallow capsules several times stronger than your body needs, the seesaw tips dangerously, leaving you vulnerable to bleeding, where you can least afford it, inside the brain. The painful irony is that Robert thought he was protecting his circulation. In reality, he was quietly increasing his risk of a life-changing bleed. So what's the safer path forward? Focus on vitamin E from natural foods, almonds, sunflower seeds, spinach, and avocados. Avoid high-dose supplements unless a doctor prescribes them for a specific medical reason. And if you already take blood thinners, be especially cautious. Adding vitamin E pills could double the risk without you realizing it. Because the goal isn't just keeping your blood moving, it's keeping the balance that protects both your heart and your brain. If vitamin E can thin the blood too much, sodium does the exact opposite. It silently raises pressure inside the arteries, stretching them to the breaking point. Take Linda, a 69-year-old grandmother who prides herself on eating healthy. She rarely touches the salt shaker at dinner, cooks most of her meals at home, and thinks she's doing everything right. But every morning she mixes a scoop of protein powder into a smoothie and sometimes adds an electrolyte packet to stay hydrated. What she doesn't realize is that her so-called health routine is quietly loading her body with more sodium than 3 bowls of canned soup. This hidden sodium is the real danger. It's not just in chips or salty snacks. It lurks in supplements, effervescent vitamins, protein powders, and hydration drinks. And for seniors, excess sodium is especially harmful because high blood pressure is the #1 risk factor for stroke. The statistics are striking. The CDC recommends limiting sodium to no more than 2,300 milligrams per day, with 1,500 milligrams as the ideal limit for people with hypertension. Yet the average American consumes nearly 3,400 milligrams daily, more than double what's safe. The American Heart Association warns that nearly 80% of people who suffer a first stroke also have high blood pressure. It's no coincidence. Sodium is the fuel that feeds the fire. A 2014 analysis published in the journal Stroke confirmed the link. People with the highest sodium intake had a 23% greater risk of stroke compared to those with lower intake. Another study in hypertension, 2019, found that cutting daily sodium by just 1,000 milligrams reduced stroke risk by 14% in older adults. Think of your arteries like garden hoses. With normal pressure, water flows smoothly. But crank the faucet too high, and the hose strains, bulges, and eventually cracks. That's exactly what hidden sodium does to delicate blood vessels in the brain. It raises pressure until one day, a vessel gives way. Here's the cruel irony. Linda believed she was protecting her health by avoiding table salt. In reality, she was still drowning in sodium, just from a different, less obvious source. So what's the safer path forward? Always check labels on supplements, hydration powders, and protein mixes. Choose low-sodium options whenever possible. And if you already live with high blood pressure, talk with your doctor before adding any health drink or supplement to your daily routine. Because protecting your brain isn't only about avoiding the salt shaker. It's about uncovering the salt that hides where you least expect it. If sodium silently raises blood pressure, omega-3 presents the opposite problem. In large doses, it can make the blood too thin. James, a 72-year-old veteran, swears by his fish oil capsules. After reading that omega-3 supports heart health, he decided one pill wasn't enough. Each morning, he takes 3 large soft gels, believing he's supercharging his protection. To him, it feels like the smartest step he can take for longevity. But here's the hidden danger. Omega-3s, especially from fish oil supplements, are powerful blood thinners when consumed in high amounts. In moderation, they reduce triglycerides and lower inflammation. But once the daily dose climbs past 3 grams, the benefit tips into risk. For seniors already on aspirin or prescription anticoagulants, the blood can become so thin that instead of preventing clots, the danger shifts to bleeding strokes. The evidence is clear. The FDA has long cautioned against exceeding 3 grams per day of EPA and DHA combined without medical supervision. A 2012 Cochrane review confirmed that while omega-3 lowers triglycerides, higher doses increase the risk of bleeding complications. And a study published in Stroke, 2019, found that seniors taking high-dose omega-3 had a 71% higher risk of hemorrhagic stroke, a devastating brain bleed, compared to those who kept their intake moderate. Think of your blood like a seesaw. On one side, clotting prevents dangerous bleeds. On the other, thinning prevents clots. Omega-3 from food, like salmon, sardines, or walnuts, helps keep the seesaw balanced. But when you flood the system with concentrated capsules, the seesaw tips dangerously, and even a minor bump or fragile artery can trigger a bleed inside the brain. The painful irony is that James believed more was better. In reality, every extra capsule pushed him closer to the very stroke he was trying to avoid. So what's the safer path forward? Aim for 250 to 500 milligrams per day of combined EPA and DHA from food sources like fatty fish, chia seeds, or flax. Use supplements only if your diet is lacking, and always under a doctor's guidance. Remember, with omega-3, more isn't better. The right balance is what keeps your heart and brain safe. Because true protection comes not from megadoses, but from moderation. The gentle balance that strengthens without tipping into danger. If omega-3 in excess can make the blood too thin, vitamin A poses a different kind of threat. It quietly builds up, damaging the very systems it's meant to protect. Elaine, a 70-year-old retired teacher, never stopped believing in the power of vitamins. Every winter, she takes cod liver oil capsules because her mother once told her, "Vitamin A will keep your eyes sharp and your skin healthy." For her, that small habit feels like a tradition of protection. But here's what Elaine doesn't realize. Vitamin A comes in two very different forms. From colorful vegetables like carrots and sweet potatoes, it exists as beta-carotene, which the body safely converts into what it needs. But from animal sources, or concentrated supplements like cod liver oil, it comes as preformed vitamin A, retinol. And unlike beta-carotene, retinol doesn't stop when your body has had enough. It keeps accumulating quietly in the liver and bloodstream. Over time, that excess vitamin A becomes toxic. It raises pressure inside the skull, stresses the liver, and accelerates calcium deposits in blood vessels. For seniors, these changes can mean a higher chance of artery stiffness, high blood pressure, and eventually stroke. The research is alarming. The National Institutes of Health, NIH, sets the upper safe limit for adults at 3,000 micrograms, 10,000 international units per day. Yet a single spoonful of cod liver oil can contain nearly that amount. A 2013 study in the Journal of the American Heart Association found that adults with chronically high vitamin A intake had a 26% greater risk of stroke and cardiovascular death. And a meta-analysis in the British Medical Journal linked long-term retinol supplementation with increased mortality from vascular events. Think of vitamin A like sunlight. In small amounts, it's life-giving, warming, and essential. But when magnified too strongly, it burns, leaving scars that don't heal. Retinol in natural food amounts supports health. In high-dose capsules taken day after day, it quietly crosses the line from helpful to harmful. The irony is heartbreaking. Elaine believed she was protecting her eyesight. In reality, she may have been hardening her arteries, inching closer to the very stroke she feared. So what's the safer path? Get vitamin A naturally from colorful fruits and vegetables, carrots, spinach, sweet potatoes. Avoid long-term high-dose retinol supplements unless prescribed by a doctor. And remember, with vitamin A, more isn't better. Balance is protection. Because the goal is not just to see clearly with your eyes, but to keep the pathways clear that carry life-giving blood to your brain. If vitamin A quietly builds up in the liver and arteries, iron creates its own silent hazard. It rusts the system from the inside out. George, a 68-year-old grandfather, started taking iron supplements after feeling unusually tired one winter. At the pharmacy, a bright label promised boosted energy and blood health. Without asking his doctor, he added one tablet to his morning routine. For George, it felt like a small step to fight fatigue. But here's the truth. Unlike vitamins that the body can flush out, iron doesn't leave easily. Once absorbed, it stores in tissues, the liver, the heart, even the walls of blood vessels. And when there's too much, iron doesn't strengthen the body. Instead, it acts like rust on metal pipes. triggering oxidative stress that inflames and scars the delicate lining of arteries. Over time, this accelerates plaque buildup, narrows the vessels, and raises the risk of clots that can cut off blood flow to the brain. The science is sobering. A long-term study published in Stroke, 2008, tracked nearly 3,500 adults and found that those with higher iron levels in their blood faced a 39% greater risk of stroke. Another large analysis in the Journal of the American Medical Association, 1999, reported that people with excess iron stores had significantly higher rates of heart attack and ischemic stroke. Researchers concluded that the very property that makes iron vital for carrying oxygen also makes it dangerous in excess, because free iron sparks unstable molecules called free radicals, which attack arteries like acid. And here's the surprising fact. Most seniors in America are not iron deficient. According to the CDC, only about 3 to 5% of adults over 65 truly need supplemental iron. Yet shelves are full of iron tablets, and many older adults take them just in case. For someone like George, already eating red meat, beans, and fortified cereals, those extra pills were quietly tipping the balance toward danger. Think of iron like fire. In the right place, it cooks your food and warms your home. But when it spreads uncontrolled, it burns the house down. That's the risk of unnecessary iron. It transforms from a life giver into a life taker. The painful irony is that George believed he was fighting tiredness. Instead, he may have been fueling artery damage, inching closer to the stroke he thought he was preventing. So what's the safer path? Only take iron if your doctor confirms a deficiency through a blood test. Choose natural sources, lean meats, lentils, spinach, where the body absorbs only what it needs. Avoid self-prescribing extra iron, because with this mineral, too much is far more dangerous than too little. Because protecting your energy should never come at the cost of your arteries or your brain. If excess iron can rust the arteries from the inside, too much vitamin D can quietly turn those arteries into stone. Susan, a 70-year-old grandmother, never skips her vitamin D. Her doctor once mentioned it could help prevent osteoporosis, so she doubled down, taking 2 high-dose capsules each morning. She felt reassured, believing she was keeping her bones strong and her independence secure. But here's the hidden problem. Vitamin D's main job is to help the body absorb calcium. In moderate amounts, that's a good thing. But when intake climbs too high, through supplements rather than natural sunlight or food, the body begins pulling in too much calcium. Instead of feeding the bones, that calcium often ends up in the blood, where it can calcify arteries, stiffen vessels, and raise blood pressure. Over time, this sets the stage for stroke. The evidence is sobering. A 2012 study in the American Journal of Cardiology found that seniors taking high-dose vitamin D supplements had a 20% higher risk of ischemic stroke. The Mayo Clinic proceedings reported that blood levels above 100 nanograms per milliliter, often seen in supplement overuse, were linked to vascular calcification and cardiovascular events. And the Endocrine Society now warns that while most older adults need only 600 to 800 IU per day, chronic intake above 4,000 IU per day without supervision can cause harm, including kidney damage, hypertension, and stroke. Think of vitamin D like sunshine streaming through a window. A gentle amount warms the room, bringing life, but magnify it through a lens, and that same light burns a hole straight through. Supplements in balanced doses support health. Megadoses scorch the system from the inside. The irony is heartbreaking. Susan thought she was strengthening her bones. Instead, she may have been hardening her arteries, quietly increasing the very stroke risk she wanted to avoid. So what's the safer path forward? Check your vitamin D levels before taking large doses. A simple blood test can tell you whether you're low. Aim for safe sunlight, fortified foods, or moderate supplements as directed by your doctor. Remember that more isn't better. Vitamin D is most protective at healthy levels, not at extremes. Because true protection means strong bones and clear arteries, so you can stand tall, walk freely, and keep blood flowing safely to your brain. If too much vitamin D can stiffen your arteries, excess vitamin B6 creates a different but equally dangerous problem. It quietly damages your nerves. Harold, a 73-year-old retiree, began taking vitamin B6 after hearing it was good for brain and nerve health. The bottle on the pharmacy shelf promised sharper memory and better energy. To Harold, it seemed harmless, just another vitamin to add to his daily routine. But unlike other water-soluble vitamins that the body can easily flush out, vitamin B6 in high doses acts more like a slow poison. Instead of helping the nervous system, it can actually damage the very nerves it's meant to protect. Seniors taking too much may develop tingling in their hands, numbness in their feet, or trouble with balance and coordination. At first, these symptoms feel like just aging. But in reality, they can signal nerve toxicity, an invisible risk that increases the chance of dangerous falls and brain bleeds. The research is clear. The National Institutes of Health, NIH, recommends only 1.5 to 1.7 milligrams per day for older adults. Yet many over-the-counter supplements contain 50, 100, or even 200 milligrams, dozens of times higher than the safe limit. A 2017 study in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that adults taking more than 100 milligrams of B6 daily had significantly higher rates of nerve damage and sensory loss. And the European Food Safety Authority now warns that even long-term use above 25 milligrams per day may increase neurological side effects. Think of your nerves like the electrical wiring in a home. A steady current keeps the lights on and appliances running. But if the current surges too high, wires overheat, insulation melts, and circuits fail. That's what excessive B6 does to the nervous system, overloading it until the wiring begins to misfire. The irony is painful. Harold thought he was protecting his memory and balance. Instead, he was slowly making himself more likely to stumble, fall, and suffer the very kind of stroke he feared. So what's the safer path forward? Get vitamin B6 naturally from food, bananas, chicken, fish, potatoes, where amounts are balanced. Avoid high-dose supplements unless specifically prescribed by a doctor. And remember, with B6, small is safe. Bigger doses don't mean sharper memory, they mean damaged nerves. Because the goal isn't just keeping your brain active, it's keeping your whole body steady, balanced, and protected from the kind of fall that can change your life forever. If excess vitamin B6 can quietly damage your nerves, hidden saturated fat and protein powders may slowly clog the arteries that keep your brain alive. Michael, a 66-year-old retiree, starts every morning with a protein shake. Since leaving his construction job, he's determined to stay strong, so he bought a big tub of protein powder at the local store. The label promised muscle support and vitality for active seniors. To him, it felt like the perfect shortcut to better health. But what Michael didn't realize was that not all protein powders are created equal. Many cheaper animal-based powders come loaded with hidden saturated fats and sodium, the same ingredients doctors urge seniors to avoid. Instead of building lean muscle, those shakes were quietly building plaque inside his arteries, narrowing the passages that carry blood to his brain. The science is striking. A 2019 study in the Journal of Nutrition found that diets high in animal protein and saturated fat were linked to a 60% greater risk of cardiovascular disease. Another analysis in Stroke, 2020, showed that seniors consuming the most saturated fat faced a 21% higher risk of ischemic stroke compared to those who limited it. The problem isn't the protein itself. Seniors need it to preserve muscle. The danger comes from the fat and additives that sneak in alongside it. Think of your arteries like city highways. Protein is like the cars, necessary for daily life. But saturated fat is like heavy trucks blocking lanes and spilling debris. Over time, traffic slows, congestion builds, and eventually one complete blockage can shut the highway down. In your body, that traffic jam is a stroke. The irony is painful. Michael believed he was strengthening his body. In reality, every shake was quietly weakening the very blood vessels meant to keep him alive. So what's the safer path forward? Choose plant-based protein powders or whey isolates that are low in saturated fat and sodium. Get protein from balanced whole foods, beans, lentils, fish, eggs, rather than relying only on powders. And always read the nutrition label. A scoop meant to help your muscles should never endanger your arteries. Because the goal isn't just to keep your muscles strong, it's to keep your blood flowing freely, your arteries clear, and your brain safe, so you can enjoy every moment of strength and independence in your later years. Before we close, let's pause for something positive. Because it's not just about what to avoid. Your plate can also become one of the strongest tools to guard your brain and heart. Research shows that certain superfoods, eaten regularly, can lower stroke risk by keeping arteries flexible, reducing blood pressure, and nourishing the brain with vital nutrients. 1. Berries. Blueberries, strawberries, blackberries. Picture a handful of blueberries dropped into your morning cereal. Beyond their sweetness, they're filled with anthocyanins, natural plant pigments that protect blood vessel walls from stiffening. A landmark study from Harvard University, following over 93,000 women for 18 years, found that those who ate blueberries and strawberries 3 times per week had a 32% lower risk of heart attack and stroke. That's not from pills or powders, just from enjoying fruit. For seniors, berries are also easy to chew, easy to add to oatmeal, yogurt, or smoothies, and they deliver brain-boosting antioxidants in every bite. 2. Leafy greens, spinach, kale, beet greens. Greens may look simple on the plate, but inside, they're powerful. They contain nitrates, which your body converts into nitric oxide, a compound that relaxes blood vessels, lowers pressure, and improves circulation. A 2017 study in the Journal of Nutrition showed that older adults who ate at least 1 serving of leafy greens daily had a 20% lower risk of stroke. Spinach and scrambled eggs, kale blended into a smoothie, or beet greens sautéed with garlic can act like natural medicine, helping your arteries breathe easier and deliver blood smoothly to the brain. 3. Walnuts. Now imagine a small handful of walnuts in the palm of your hand. These nuts are rich in plant-based omega-3s, magnesium, and vitamin E, nutrients that support healthy cholesterol levels and reduce artery inflammation. In a 2019 American Heart Association trial, seniors who ate walnuts daily for 2 years saw significant improvements in blood vessel flexibility and a drop in harmful LDL cholesterol. Unlike fish oil capsules that can cause problems in high doses, walnuts provide a safe, food-based source of healthy fats, perfect for snacking, sprinkling on salads, or mixing into oatmeal. Think of these 3 foods as your natural defense team. Berries act like tiny shields, protecting your blood vessels from damage. Leafy greens work like gentle relaxers, opening arteries so blood flows freely. Walnuts strengthen the system from within, calming inflammation and balancing cholesterol. The beauty is that these foods don't just lower stroke risk. They also taste good, are affordable, and can easily be added to meals you already enjoy. For seniors, they're practical, safe, and proven by science to help protect independence and vitality. So while caution is needed with certain supplements, remember this. Every meal is a chance to feed your brain, strengthen your heart, and guard your future. So now you've seen the full picture. 9 common nutrients: calcium in high-dose tablets, vitamin E, sodium hiding in powders, too much omega-3, vitamin A, excess iron, megadoses of vitamin D and B6, and hidden saturated fat in protein shakes, each of them, when misused, can quietly increase your risk of stroke. And yet, this isn't a message of fear. It's a message of awareness. Because just as certain pills and powders can harm, nature has already placed protection in your hands. The superfoods that strengthen, balance, and heal. A bowl of berries, a serving of leafy greens, a handful of walnuts. These simple choices can do more for your arteries and brain than any high-dose capsule ever could. Here's the truth. Growing older doesn't mean losing control of your health. It means being wiser about every decision. What you put on your plate, what you swallow each morning, and what you choose to leave behind. Stroke risk isn't written in stone. Every meal, every habit, every small choice can shift the balance back in your favor. So the next time you reach for a supplement bottle, pause. Ask yourself, is this really what my body needs? Or am I safer with food, sunlight, and balance? Then choose wisely. Because protecting your independence, your memory, and your life is worth that moment of care. And remember, this video is for educational purposes only. It is not a substitute for medical advice. Always consult your doctor before changing your supplements or medications. If you found this helpful, share it with someone you love, because knowledge shared is protection multiplied. And together, we can make sure that every senior not only adds years to their life, but life to their years.